Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Drop Lob Pod this week. We were missing my co-host Edic earlier this week. As I said, he was a little bit too busy with work or whatever it is that he thinks is so important. But I'm Nathan. We got Edic back here, your usual duo, and we're ready to recap the Australian Open some more. Me and our special guest Ben Tauber earlier this week covered the men's side in detail. Edic and I will go over that again because I'm sure he's got some different takes, and then we'll go into the women's side in detail as well. You ready to get at it?
Let's get at it. And I do want to say, I really enjoyed listening to your guys' episode. Benjamin Tower did a phenomenal job and, really great insights about the different grips and the state of the game, especially talking about the one-hand backhand. So just want to thank Ben. I will rebuttal and, of course, say that I do believe that I would beat him anytime, any place, anywhere. But I agree with him on the fact that I also was playing better when I left Florida, which is a little bit of an interesting, situation. But I also agree with him that the best training is in Florida. Uh,
I think I could explain that one as three guys that worked in the same workplace. Great workplace to work at, miss it a lot, but the hours that we worked over there at the campus just made it really difficult to train. We're not on a normal 9 to 5. You guys are coaching throughout most of the time when good practice can get in. So I think all of us kind of finding more normalized work schedules maybe uh played a role because I too have gotten better and also would like to put my name in the hat. Oh my God, well, I can't speak English, so it doesn't matter. I withdraw. But I think I could take some games off either you guys. Name in the hat is just terrible. So let's talk tennis, something I actually can speak about. The women's side, WTA, will jump into it first. Elena Rybakina, one major championship down. You predicted multiple this year. I thought you were crazy. She's halfway there already, and she looked phenomenal. What did you see out of her this tournament, and how confident are you feeling with her best major, Wimbledon, that she's already won, still ahead of her, and her getting one more this year?
I'm feeling very happy that she's turned it around ever since the end of last year. And might I note that that all came when her coach, Sasha Vukic, came back. And there's
Vukov.
definitely a correlation. Vukov, excuse me. There is definitely a correlation.
Yeah.
And she's playing phenomenal tennis. I think she'll be a favorite going into either either Wimbledon or the US Open. Phenomenal performance. And I know we're gonna get into it a little bit later, but I think that Sabalenka and
Oh, we are.
Sasha Zverev should go hang out together. Or maybe they shouldn't, because all they know how to do is choke. And while we're on the
Sabalenka,
subject,
Sabalenka's
Sabalenka,
achieved more success, but because she's achieved more success, she's opened herself up more to failing at higher stages and levels. Um,
that is
but
fair.
yes,
That is
yes, Ben and
fair.
I, because I believe she has four major championships to her name right now, major titles. But yes,
That
blew
is
it up a
fair.
set to Coco Gauff twice. And now up 3-0 in the final set against Rybakina. To be fair, the last time they played in the Australian Open finals, Sabalenka pulled it out, so technically it's just evening the scales. But yeah, 3-0, 30 all in the final set to win, and she gets one more game.
Right. So here's the thing. I understand that Sabalenka has won four slams. She's now also lost four slams. The only one where she really had a close match and played against a good player was against Elena in the Australian Open, like Nathan said. All those other times she won Grand Slams. One was against Qinwen Zhang, first time finalist. One was against Pagula, first time finalist. One was against Anisimova, who just came off the back of losing 0-0. So I'm not impressed by her. I think she's overrated. I think that she is not clutch. She chokes in big moments. She still hasn't proved that in a big match, in a tight match, that she can close it out. And, sure, she has four Grand Slams, but she should have a lot more. This Australian Open, she didn't beat anybody inside the top 10. And ultimately, I just don't feel like she can convert in big moments, much like my best friend, Alexander Zverev.
We'll go bigger scale here real quick because I'm intrigued. Who ends with more majors in their career, Iga or Sabalenka, just based on right now?
Oh my God, Iga 100%.
Really?
100%. Because not only is she ahead right now, but she's just more, I think she's hungrier. She's more consistent over the long haul. She has six Grand Slams, four French, one US, and one Wimbledon. I would imagine that she'll, easily win another French. Listen, if Iga wins the Australian Open, she's got the career Grand Slam, and we're talking about her as one of the GOATs, especially one of the GOATs of this era.
Yeah, I mean, she really surprising that she won Wimbledon last year, honestly. The one that she was really had a lot of struggles with, didn't seem like she had much shot in. It's the one that Elena usually is expected to win every year, odds on. And yeah, double bagel finals against Anisimova, who I thought would win it, and that was quite a shocking finals. But yeah, she's proved she can pull anything out, but she's hit a real roadblock trying to beat Rybakina lately. She's hit a real roadblock trying to beat Coco Gauff lately. God forbid Helena Ostapenko gets her mind straight at any point. That's a free victory for her. For those that don't know, I believe she's now 6-0 against Iga. It's like comical because Iga's very much the better player. Ostapenko holding a French Open title from years ago, very talented ball striker, but Iga has her on the movement category and the consistency category by miles. When they play, she dominates her. But yeah, like Iga's found certain players that she's just really hitting a roadblock against. And I feel like when you're a player, like you want to be the type of person that could beat or lose to anybody on any day, more so than a person that's praying to avoid a couple people in the draw. And if more people with that kind of archetype, like just these big, big hitters, come into the picture, like I think it could be really difficult for her to stay on top. So I don't know. Like with the recent success, I have to go Sabalenka. I know Iga's got the age. I know she's got the advantage, but Sabalenka's so close every major, every time, and really without much challenge until she gets to the semis or finals. So yeah, we'll see.
All I have to say to that is Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last.
That's fair. It's a good movie quote. Shout out Talladega Nights. So on that note, in the semifinals, we had Alina Svitolina, who, by the way, I just assumed since she was Gael Monfils's wife and Monfils is like 38, 39, that she was also up there in her late 30s. She's only 31 or 32 right now. And then we had Jess Pegula, who you just mentioned had made her first major final at the US Open a little while ago and lost to Sabalenka. But as we had discussed last week, like the women's game is way deeper than the men's game right now. It's really, really strong. Could you see one or both of them winning a major, and would one of them be more likely than the other, in your opinion, to win one?
So, great question. Neither of them are ever going to win a major unless they implement what Craig Tiley, president of Tennis Australia, is suggesting to do, which is best out of five for the quarterfinals on, which would favor someone like Svitolina, who has great cardio, someone like Pegula, who can win over the long haul, someone like Coco Gauff, and it would be a disadvantage to maybe some other, power
I
players like
think Iga should have a great advantage in a best of
Iga
five.
too. So no, these people who are consistently in the top 10 and producing but don't have weapons won't win slams like Pegula. You got to look at someone like Anisimova. You got to look at someone like Keys, even like Ivan Josefa that has something different about her game that can, cause or wreak havoc to other players to break out. Ben Fitch fits that category just because she takes the ball really early, and I think she has the star power. But no, neither of those will win a Grand Slam. And I love that idea from Craig Tiley, best out of five for the quarterfinals on for the women. I love that, and I hope they do that.
Okay, that was going to be my next question is did you like that? I also think that it could be interesting. I do agree, and I saw a lot of commentary on it that later rounds only. Obviously, it would be a big adjustment for the women to do it for all rounds. I think it's fair for them to start that in the quarterfinals, the semifinals, but I too. I know it's something I believe they used to do, and as someone that's watched tennis for longer than me, you can back me. And like the men's Masters 1000s back in the day, they used to do five setters for the finals or for the semis and the finals. So, and I'm pretty sure that it created some pretty epic matches from clips I've watched and stuff. So, I would be
Yeah.
interested to see if like if they go five, if they're just players that are dead gassed by a fifth set, like if it's because I mean, like, obviously, the implication right now with them going three sets is that they can't hang for five setters. Tennis players, as we've also discussed, are some of the best, most well-rounded athletes in the world, and they usually train much harder than what they actually have to endure in a match. So I would assume that all of these women would be ready for five setters, but it would be interesting.
100%. There is no reason why these women can't do it. They can definitely do it. Of course, it will get a little getting used to, but they can definitely do it. The one thing I will say though is you see that none of the women are clamoring for it. None of them are asking for it. And one thing that my mom said, shout out to mom, was that even though I love me some women's tennis, some of the matches are a little bit boring. And thinking about over the long haul, a five-set match like an Anisimova against Pegula for five sets, that's not the most interesting viewership of all time.
That
And
was not a match
also,
that I enjoyed either.
some of these ladies' matches are long as two sets. Beatrice Haddad Maya. Imagine what they're going to be as five sets. So that's just all stuff to consider.
Yeah, it's I think that the women's tennis game sees a lot more flat hitting, like a lot less topspin and a lot more just flat hitting, going for smaller margins, more winners slash air, whatever. So yeah, I definitely think that over a five setter, if the movement declines and the slapping, and that's not a bad thing because they're very talented and they hit these margins at a high rate of success, but it could just become winner air ball and not a lot of like movement and long rallies, which could indeed become boring. Another storyline out of the women's side, at least for me, some young players that have kind of been on the cusp of breaking out for a little while didn't maybe quite break out in this tournament, but really got close and showed what they had in store for everyone in the future. We have Victoria Mboko from Canada and Eva Jovic from the US. Mboko making, I believe, the round of 16, Eva making the quarterfinals. Which one of those two young players are you more excited about going forward? And do either of them have a chance at a major in the future? And I do have my own opinions on this one as well.
We talked about this the last time. I definitely think that both of them have chances at winning majors. Obviously, Victoria because she has such big weapons. Eva, I think she kind of falls into the benchish category. She doesn't really miss. We talked about her really long strokes. Obviously, she's a little bit undersized, but I think she has a chance to win a major just because like her shot making ability is really good. And she does possess some of those X factors. If I had to buy stock, I'd obviously buy it on Victoria, but I
Yeah.
see both of them as potential Grand Slam
Yeah.
champions.
And then I know that this is something that slid past us last time we discussed, but Belinda Bencic, one that you just said could do well in a five setter with star power, etc., had a pretty crappy second round loss after taking her national team all the way to the finals of the United Cup. Probably maybe a little burnt out, comes in the Australian Open, loses in the second round after winning the second set by Bagel, really big favorite, and then the girl that she lost to loses to Elise Mertens in the next round. Any concern for Bencic coming off a meteoric rise last year? I know that we had discussed this on a previous pod that I grabbed this back from somewhere, but she rose back after maternity leave from like world 800 to like number 11. And then comes into the season firing, winning the United Cup. Like any chance that she falls off or gets a little bit of burnout, or is this just a one-off with that loss?
No concern. Obviously, not the results she would have wanted, but still definitely ahead of schedule in terms of her comeback. And she's going to be seeded for all the Grand Slams this year, unless she really falls off. So I think she's always in the mix. And again, she has that ability to really go on streaks and trouble players. If she gets the right draw, I believe that she can, go all the way and potentially win one.
Interesting take. I don't think that she's going to have the capability to take home a major, although I have rooted for it and I feel like she's gotten close. And if you notice, I'm not even putting my girl Mira in conversation today. Like, I understand how it's gone, but I don't think that. Bencic gets there personally. But I feel like we've gotten pretty in depth on the women's. Ben and I went pretty in depth on the men's, but I know that there's gonna be some more takes, and I know that the people enjoy their men's tennis. So we'll jump over to the men's tennis draw, where we had one of the most boring major tournaments, I would say, of all time. I was sufficiently asleep and not missing out on anything. There were a lot of straight setters, a lot of four setters. I don't think we saw a five-set match in any point in the round of like 16 in the quarterfinals or yeah, in the round of 16 or the quarterfinals, which is relatively rare. And then we make it into the semifinals. We've got four top seeds. We've got Zverev playing against Carlos Alcaraz. It's 3v1. We've got Djokovic playing center 4v2. I still don't really understand why tennis does that over 1v4 and 2v3, but we can get into that another day. Um, Historic semifinals, right? Like that's one of the best semis you've ever seen.
Without a doubt, one of the best I've ever seen. Sort of reminded me of Verdasco and Nadal circa 2009 for the Australian Open. Listen, I'm not a big fan of Djokovic, obviously being a big Rafa guy, but what he accomplished in the semifinals was, nothing short of spectacular. Just a word on Sinner. He hasn't won a match after playing for 3 hours and 50 minutes. He has a losing record in the fifth set. And ultimately, he's fragile. The guy is fragile over the long haul. I don't really think he got tight or played a bad match, but this is a match that he should win, right? I understand
Oh
Djokovic was
yeah.
a little bit lucky in that he came into it fresh, but I'm sure Sinner was upset because, again, this is a match he should win. And obviously, he has four Grand Slams, but there are some question marks there. And my biggest question mark with Sinner is just can his body hold up over time. And sort of like Ben was alluding to, he is very skinny. And there is something to be said about that. In the fifth set, I was thinking about people like Wawrinka, who are a little bit more stockier, someone like Songa, who's stockier. He never really had trouble with his fitness or cramping, holding up over time. So I'm not really sure if his body type lends itself to five-set matches. So I'll be
Yeah.
interested to see what happens moving forward.
Even a dude like Nadal was like more built than I think people thought himself. But Sinner's 6-11 in five-set matches, 0-8 in matches that go over 3 hours and 50 minutes. It might have been one
Not
and
good.
eight, but the one win, if it was a win, was against Medvedev at that Australian Open back in 2024. And Medvedev himself has had quite a history with not being able to close out long matches, surprisingly. Probably because he subjects himself to running marathons every match. Um, but yeah, so Djokovic very impressive. I'd mentioned it last pod, but like one bet 100 on him, win 950, massive, massive underdog, loses the first set. Match looked over, comes back and wins it. But before that was a classic. Two guys, one Carlos Alcaraz, already probably cemented as a top five clutch tennis player of all time, has won multiple majors from down match point against Jannik Sinner and saved other match points against top 10 players come back to win. On the other side, we have the player with probably the largest mental block in the history of tennis, Alexander Zverev. Um, he just absolutely can't do it. He can't make it past the semifinals. Gets up, goes down 2 sets to 0 to Zverev. Alcaraz starts cramping. Zverev seems like he's clutching it out. Huge first serves, wins two tiebreakers, is down 5-6, love 30 in the fourth, saves it, gets to the fifth, goes up the deciding break. He's up 5-3. And then what did you see from there?
So here's the thing with Zverev, and I've talked about this before. He just has too many times in the past where he hasn't gotten it done and he's choked. In comparison, Alcaraz has tons of times where he's been down and come back and won. So in those moments of truth, in those moments, where he needs to finish, he can't go back into the mental bank account, is what I like to call it, and think about times where he's converted. So all his thoughts are negative, whereas Alcaraz can go back to the Sinner U.S. Open match, to the Diminar match, to the Sinner French Open match, and think good thoughts about how he's going to win. And of course, not only that, but Zverev, he was fine in the second set and he was up 5-2. So he should have won the second set and finished it in four. And then, of course, he gets up 5-3 in the fifth and he was up 5-4. And then he was saying in his press conference, "Oh, at 5-4, I was so tired. My legs, I didn't have anything left." Hey, man, if you're that tired, why don't you take a medical timeout at 5-4, get your legs rubbed out and come back firing? This is your last stand. You're saying you knew you were tired. Take the time, mentally prepare yourself, and go for it, right? And then instead, he doesn't do that. And I don't
That's
want to
fair.
hear him saying, "Oh, I'm so proud of myself. I'm a warrior. Dude, you lost the match. You still suck in tight moments. And not only that, but you should have won the match in four sets. When you weren't tired, you lost the second set and you lost it being up 5-2. So, like I said, maybe he should go hang out with Sabalenka, or better yet, maybe they shouldn't.
That's funny. And yeah, and I did watch that game at 5-4. I was fortunately awake for it, and he served huge all match. He needed to come up with huge first serves, and he didn't come up with huge first serves. He had a potential winner down the line at 15-30 or 30 all that he just kind of yanked the forehand into the alley, like very tight, like wasn't it was very classic Zverev, like he just wasn't putting a lot on the ball. He wasn't putting it side to side. He was kind of just playing a lot of neutral balls through the middle, kind of short. You can't do that against Carlos Alcaraz. Carlos Alcaraz lives for that moment, as you said, and his mental bank, as you call it, is just growing and growing. So he's gonna get to a point where he'll just feel invincible in these moments, and you're gonna have to take the control out of his hands, which Zverev is probably the best player on tour to take that control out of his hands. Probably the best serve and second ball that you can hit combination for first serve, second ball, and he just didn't give himself the opportunities to finish it. And then to proceed, like Alcaraz is inevitable at 6-5 add out. Zverev an approach shot off a ball that he drew Carlos way off the court. And as soon as I saw the approach, I was like, here comes the incredible winner from Carlos, and it came. Uh, yeah, I wouldn't be proud if I were him, and I'd be extra pissed off because he didn't even have to face Yannick Sinner. He would have been facing Novak, 38-year-old Novak. Um, I already know your answer because I honestly at first I thought it would be good for him, and then after watching Novak in the finals, I changed my mind. But who wins the hypothetical had Zverev made it through?
Novak Djokovic would have won the match.
And do you think it would have affected the outcome of the second match at all had Zverev been the one to make it through the first?
No, because they saw Alcaraz was really tired, and Djokovic probably wanted to play Zverev more than Alcaraz, and he
Oh
still
yeah.
won. So
Yeah,
I don't think
Djokovic would have
they
been.
were probably both excited because they were like, "This guy's super tired, 5 hours, on the court."
Yeah. I mean, but to be fair, Alcaraz at I believe it was the 2022 US Open, whenever he saved the match point against Sinner, he played like three marathon 5.5, 6 hour matches in the last three rounds and just waltzed away with the trophy like it was nothing. I think that was my moment where I knew that he was him, was when he did that. I don't know if tired, besides the French Open final where he cramped against Djokovic, I don't know if tired is like a word in his vocabulary. Um, Speaking of which, though, he had to get the pickle juice in the third set. He called an MTO. Obviously, you can't say I'm calling an MTO for cramping. That's against the rules. But once again, doctors can't inherently prove what is or isn't wrong with you. So he calls a timeout to get pickle juice to help with his cramping. Zverev's pretty livid about it. What are your thoughts and feelings on that?
Well, he didn't call the medical timeout for the cramping. He called the medical timeout because he thought he had hurt a part of his leg. So he's doing everything well within the rules. I believe him. Even if he's lying, it's still within the rules. And
Right, they can't prove
if
it.
they treat him like it is what it is, this is part of the gamesmanship, right? Djokovic is known for that. What can you do? He fought through the cramps. He recovered. And that's the game. That's the sport.
Yeah, beat him anyway, is the
Right.
answer. I mean,
Right.
like, a really, really I think that some of these guys are competitive enough that they want to win when the other plays at their best. And I do think that Zverev, for the most part, wants that. But once again, I just think it's like the trauma for him. I think at this point, he just wants it any way he can get it. I wouldn't blame him, honestly. If I were at that point,
Oh,
I'd.
oh, by the way, Zverev should retire. Sorry, I forgot to say that. Zverev should just retire right now because obviously he's never going to win a Grand Slam. And how can you come back from doing this? Like, you definitely should have won that match. And how many more golden opportunities are you going to get? It's way better to just retire right now.
Nah,
And
he's still got a great job. He makes so much money. He travels the world. He has a fun time. Like, he's just got to take. I will say, Madison Keys, women's side, huge mental block, mentally known for being arguably incredibly weak, super nice girl, like very, very, very talented. And what finally got her over the hump, she literally said, was she just gave up the idea of winning a major and just didn't put any pressure on it, and then it happened. So I think for Zverev, it's just lower the bar, stop caring. His biggest problem right now is caring, dude. Like, by stop caring, I don't mean don't go practice, don't train, don't try to be the best player you can be. Come out in a major, don't care if you lose 0-0 or if you play great. Hit for the lines, hit for the corners. I mean, he was doing it with his serves. Like he was down break point, he's just nuking for his serves. And I will say that when he plays his game well, it is pretty to watch. I can't say everybody enjoys that style of game. I do, but he's just a 6'6" guy with a very smooth, very consistent serve, just drilling corners like back and forth, hitting a very deep, flat like approach shot, and then awkwardly volleying it. I'm not a big fan of his net game per se, but he makes it work. Like he's a dominant player. He just
look,
gets nervous.
I,
He's got to
I,
stop
I,
caring, man.
I completely agree with you. You know, when people play their best is when they're not thinking and they're not judging themselves and they're not worried about the outcome, but they're just, going with the process. And maybe he isn't caring, but the problem is that number one, it's not women's tennis and he has to get through monsters like Alcaraz and Sinner. And number
Even
two,
Arena.
even if he doesn't care, still in the moment of truth, he has too much baggage that you can't get. You got to do some serious mental work.
Men in Black, that shit, dude.
And the pro
Memory gun.
so the problem is that at the US Open final, when he had his first opportunity to convert in the fifth set, he hit a 67-mile-per-hour second serve in the fifth set. That's why Ugo and I call him Mr. 67, and that just doesn't go away. He's not
I
going to win a
mean,
slam. I'm telling you that. He's not going to
I'm
win a
not saying
slam.
he's gonna win a slam either, but his best, like every major, I want to give up on the idea that he has the potential to win a slam, and then every major he comes just close enough to where I'm like, God damn it, he really could. And now Sinner's shown that he's not this invincible demigod robot, whatever the hell you want to call him, that he was for like so long. Like, I mean, the cracks are there. Alcaraz cramps sometimes. Novak is ancient. Like, I mean, supposedly, I was hearing noise from someone that Musetti had a chance at him. I still rate Zverev over Musetti by a decent amount, by a higher than decent amount. I still think that at the moment, like nobody's established themselves up with these four guys, and obviously Alcaraz and Sinner is separated. Novak's got his own level, and then it's Zverev. But I think even at this point, Zverev still has his own level past every other player on tour. Um, so he's got to still. I don't know, man. I don't know. To be
One thing
honest, I don't have the answers for him.
One thing I want to just bring up real quick, if you would allow me to transition, and
Absolutely.
I'm gonna open it up to you to the conversation. But for me, there's no conversation, and I don't like him. But Novak Djokovic is the greatest athlete of all time, and the
Athlete or tennis player?
greatest athlete of all time, and I'll tell you why. Tell me another player, sorry, tell me another athlete who has to do their sport for 5 hours. Okay? Tell me another athlete that has to do that have to have that endurance, that has to do sprinting throughout all of those 5 hours, that has to do not only upper body but lower body, full body, that engages all of the mental, that is an individual sport, that is extremely flexible and strong like he is. There is nobody, and he's 38 years old now. I'm telling you, there is no other athlete like him. If you tell me Cristiano Ronaldo, he doesn't use his upper half. Okay? He's not in an individual sport and he plays for 90 minutes. If you tell me LeBron James, great. He uses his full body. How long does he play for? 48 freaking stinking minutes, and he gets a timeout every 5 minutes, and he's replaced every 2 minutes.
There's a lot of more
And there's no
downtime.
argument.
I was going to say, yes, I think he has an incredibly legitimate argument for greatest athlete of all time. If anything, the biggest argument against him would be when he peaked, like originally, that he didn't peak until a little bit later into his 20s. So like his duration of great, like his longevity period of greatness could arguably be shorter than like a Ronaldo or LeBron or Messi, whatever, that like had maybe like 20 years instead of like 14, 15 years. But he's the greatest tennis player of all time, definitively after this performance.
Greatest.
Him beating Sinner locked him into a level above my boy Nadal, above our boy Nadal, above Federer. I'm not saying he wasn't already there because I do think he was, but he locked in definitively above those two guys as the greatest tennis player of all time. And tennis is one of the most difficult sports to play in the world. He is surely a top five athlete of all time, in my opinion, maybe even top three. I think the top one greatest athlete, just because of how different sports are, is hard to debate. But nobody could look at you in a room where you say Novak Djokovic and say you're delusional or you're definitely wrong. That is a valid,
The
acceptable answer.
main, the main, well, and by the way, when Djokovic was like 17 years old, he was a better athlete than any one of those other people. On top of that, the main argument is that you put Djokovic in any other sport, and he'll never get tired. He'll hang with the best. You put Ronaldo on the tennis court, this guy is going to get so tired within the first 5 minutes because it's different. It's completely different. And nobody understands that because they think it's like, oh, tennis.
I
But
don't
then
think
when you get on the
Ronaldo's getting
court,
tired
you
five
don't
minutes into a
understand.
game
Dude,
sometimes.
Ronaldo wouldn't last five. If we took Cristiano Ronaldo and I put him through my drilling or Mark Jelina's drilling for 5 minutes, this guy's going to be dead on the floor tired. He's
That
never
is the
done anything like
worst.
that
That
before
is the
because
worst take.
his
The
cardio,
worst take
his
I have
cardio is
ever heard
not
in
for
my
short
life.
bursts. This guy would get
Soccer
so
is the
tired.
biggest cardio sport, dude.
Oh,
That is
really? Do they play 5 hours? Oh, really? And do they play by themselves? Yeah, I didn't think so.
that is the worst take
I
I've
didn't
heard in the
think
history of this
so.
podcast. We'll leave it up to the people and we'll leave it up to the comments. I never come on and just scream like that is fucking blasphemous. Show's not for kids, so I can curse. But
Why do you
yes,
think?
that is
Why do you
fucking
think that
blasphemous.
Djokovic? Why do you think that Djokovic and Nadal are such good soccer players? Because they can go and
Tennis
do that easily
translates.
in
Tennis
sleep. Why do
translates.
you think that? Why do you think that Ronaldo has never stepped on the tennis court?
Because hand-eye
Because he has no
coordination is different
cardio
than
for
foot.
tennis. He has no
Hand-eye.
cardio for tennis.
No, it's
And the reason I know
hand-eye.
that, the
It's
reason I know
hand-eye,
that is
dog.
because I'm the cardio king.
This man could run circles around the court
Nathan, you're not
all
getting the
day.
point. You're not getting the point. It's not about running circles. It's about the fact that tennis is different. It's not even endurance. It's you need to have endurance, speed. You got to go quick. You think he's going to do 20 balls to side, 5 sets with only 10 seconds rest in between? No way.
Yes.
He can't. He can't.
Yes.
He cannot do that. I guarantee
He
you.
can't make the ball
Can't
over the
do
net
that.
potentially if he doesn't have hand-eye
Physically,
coordination. He could run it.
physically, physically, he cannot do
Guys,
that.
calves are the size of your torso.
He's don't be bringing me into this, Mr. 200 pounds.
I know, and I'm
I
proud of
said
it. I'm
that.
built.
You're 200 pounds?
Built.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
Built.
Oh,
Flex on you. Whatever. That's Jesus. I wish we
greatest
could.
athlete of all time. And you know who's right behind him right now is Carlos Alcaraz for number two greatest athlete of all time. And it'll keep going. And no other if you're not in an individual sport, you're automatically disqualified. You're automatically disqualified.
Carlos Willer will not pass Novak by the end of his career. Barring injury, barring major injury.
He will. He'll pass him.
I think so too. I think so
He'll
too.
pass him. He'll pass him.
He's he's a great guy to be the face of the game too. I just want to toss that in there. Like he's such
Great
a
pass.
good dude, charismatic, great attitude about everything, very respectful. Like He had that moment that I don't think we mentioned where the chair umpire, he was playing Demeanor in the quarterfinals, and the chair umpire called a time violation on him for some reason. And Alcaraz knew it was bullshit and volunteered that he wasn't ready, and Demeanor deserved the first serve anyway. The Australian crowd loved that. The video was obvious he was ready. Um,
Yep.
but he did
Yep.
that, and he's been known to show that type of sportsmanship towards other players because once again, he is a true competitor and he wants to win when his opponents are at their best. Part of
Yep.
what makes him so great. And I think another thing that really shows, and probably going a little off topic, but I actually feel like the fact that Alcaraz tends to kind of lapse some outside of the majors, whereas Sinner like locks in more outside of them. I feel like Alcaraz is an even stronger competitor for like really like caring more about the moment. Like Sinner's willing to put in the work, willing to put in the grind. Like he'll always stay focused. Like he wants and needs every point. But Alcaraz, he's like, wake me up when the stage is big and I'll show up.
Alcaraz really seems like he loves tennis, whereas Sinner, he obviously loves it, but he was kind of dabbling in the skiing, and he just doesn't really seem like a true dog and a true competitor. Whereas Alcaraz really, I feel like he
I
loves
will
that.
I
Uh,
would I would differ a little bit, and what I would say is they both seem to love tennis. Alcaraz is more of a performer. He lives to perform. The bigger the crowd, the bigger the stage, the more he wants to show up for himself and for the people. I think Sinner is there to win. Alcaraz is there to win and to put on a show. And I think that the more he puts on a show, the better it does for his chances to win.
Hey man, just while we're on the topic, I know we got a little heated, um, but I just wanted to bring up another contentious topic.
Oh
You
God.
said you said Novak Djokovic, and let me get my point across, please. Don't
Hold on.
interrupt. You said Novak Djokovic is the greatest tennis player of all time. Let me just counter because last week or a couple weeks ago we were talking about how Coco Gauff is not a good tennis player, but she's a good competitor. So how I view it as Novak Djokovic right now is the most accomplished tennis player of all time. I think that there's another discussion about who's the most complete tennis player of all time. And I'd say right now, Alcaraz is ahead in that conversation. Just forehand, backhand, serve, volleys, all court game, defending, attacking. That's what I'm
Drop
talking
shot.
about. Drop shot. Now and then you need to have another conversation like who's the greatest tennis player of all time? I guess in terms of like fluidity, strokes, hitting it in the strike zone, how you look, etc. That I think goes to Federer. And then
Better.
who's the greatest competitor of all time?
Rafa.
Rafa. So that's how I break it down. That's
Yeah.
how I break it down.
I'd still rather be Novak in that conversation, but I actually very much enjoy your breakdown there, and I do agree.
Thank you. And don't forget, if you want one match, you take Stan Wawrinka at the French Open.
Dude, Stan that backhand when he plays well. I love it. I
Also,
love it.
Ben Tauber was so wrong. This guy had great takes, but his take about the one hand backhand and how he's hitting backhands better than everybody in the match. And he's like this big proponent, and he's saying how, oh, someone with the one hand backhand might be, world number one. You know what has a better chance of becoming of happening is Zverev winning a Grand Slam than someone with a one-hand backhand becoming world number one on the men's tour. The game is too fast. It's too hard. I'm sorry, Ben, that you're just playing against 8 and 9 UTRs and you can get away with your one-hand backhand. But at the big dogs, like I'm playing, you got to have a two-hander. I love you, Ben.
Just give a moment to let Ede calm down. Let him settle. He's had a lot of crazy takes here. We've let him run wild.
And I also like Cristiano Ronaldo, but there's just
He
levels.
doesn't like you after this, I'll tell you that.
There's
It's a
just
one way.
there's
It's
just
a,
levels
it's
to
a
this.
one-way level of mutual respect and like, and it's not coming from his end if he ever were to come across this video, I'll tell you that. I would love to get Cristiano Ronaldo out on a tennis court and just watch you crumble. You would beat him, obviously,
Once I meet him, that's the
but
easiest
he's
match
not getting
ever.
tired, dude. That is just whatever. We'll let the people come in, the people decide. Um, you want to get into some dropper lob? I don't even know if I should let you run wild anymore.
let's get into drop or lob. You got some?
I've got some unless you'd like to come at me, because I don't know if I've answered any in a minute, but I got some for you. We can alternate if you want.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Drop or lob. And I hinted at this earlier. Lorenzo Musetti wins another title at any level in the year 2026, 250, 500,000 or major. He hasn't
Lob.
won one since 2022 for context.
I didn't actually know that. But I'm gonna lob that. He is obviously hurt, but he'll win. I think he'll win one this year. I'm pretty confident about that.
No title since 2022 for the current world number three. A little bit embarrassing if you ask me, but I guess you never know what a new year will bring. A guy that's I should also say blown tiebreak leads in the third set to Francisco Cerundolo and Alejandro Tavio in finals for 250s in the past year and a half. So the clutch is not there.
All right, I got one for you. I got one for you. If Carlos Alcaraz were to retire today, he's considered better than Agassi and Sampras.
I will preface this by saying we know that my historical ball knowledge is
I
not
can't.
all the way there, but I will say I'm gonna drop and lob that. I'm gonna lob that he's better than Agassi. Obviously he reached number one twice, two different peaks, but he had the struggles with the addiction, the struggles with the motivation. Like he's spoken about it at length. I think he's super impressive and super important in the tennis community. And I think that arguably what he's done after tennis has been more important than what he did on the court. And that's made him even bigger legend. Sampras, still no. He was holding the major record for over a decade there. He was the bar that the big three had to live up to. Just over doubling Carlos's major still at this point. Uh, he's still greater. And I mean, I have seen him play enough to know just like that serve and attacking the net and just the dynamic athleticism. It was a completely different game in that period, 100%. But his level of dominance is still something that Carlos is going to have to maintain a little bit longer to be able to match. So back to you. I'm going to drop or lob Nathan's predictions at the beginning of 2026 were the worst tennis predictions you have ever heard from one person with a media platform in your entire life. We'll go over what those predictions were real quick. Had Sebastian Baez to fall off. He's currently beaten Taylor Fritz, had a couple big wins. Luciano Darderi to fall off, made the fourth round at the Australian Open. We had Alexandre Muller fall off. I still think that could happen, but made the second round. Alexei Popyrin kind of choked against him in the first round of the Australian Open. So those were the three guys. And then our hottest take was that Novak was going to be completely washed this year and fall out of the top 25 with poor major performance. Is it too
So
early to call my takes the biggest brick you've ever seen? Drop or lob?
it's yeah, it's a little bit early, definitely lobbing it, but as of right now, they've been terrible predictions, which is anybody surprised? I mean, if you've been
Yeah.
listening to the podcast, you got to know to listen to me for your real tennis predictions. If you want advice on betting, listen to Nathan because he's good. But as Nate Diaz once said, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. That's a little
Nate
UFC.
Diaz is a UFC fighter.
Little UFC.
I would actually say my women's predictions were better than yours, though, but I'm teeing you off with the men's predictions. I will also say Cruz Hewitt, big
What are
win
you
last night.
talking about? I literally predicted Elena to win two Grand Slams and she's already won one. What are you talking about?
Claire Tossin.
Bro, what are you talking about? It doesn't matter, my other
Bad at
picks.
bad
She
at
already
bad at
won one
tennis.
Grand Slam.
Bad at tennis. Mira Andreeva, top five end of the year.
She sucks, bro. She sucks.
I
All
don't
right,
know, man.
last drop or lob. Last drop or lob. Drop or lob. The WTA by the end of 2027 will be playing some sort of version of best 3 out of 5 sets in the Grand Slams.
Gonna drop it. I'm not gonna lie. I would like to see it, but I think that radical change doesn't come quickly. And I think that even though it's something that seems minor, like I know, for example, the US Open had the funky mixed doubles draw last year where they allowed a lot of the top singles players in. But as guys that worked at the USTA, like we also saw that even something like that had to go through like extensive months, years of planning just to come to fruition. It's gonna have to go through like legal teams, players' votes, players' unions, scheduling. It will also make a difference for like some scheduling for like quarterfinals, semifinals, TV rights potentially. Like there's so many things that go on behind the scenes, not to mention the fact that once again, it really doesn't benefit the majority of WTA players. The ones who really feel like they maintain that good fitness, like a Pagula, a Goff, and Iga, might go for it. But then if on the other hand you have a Sabalenka, a Rybakina, like I don't think Rybakina should want it by any means. Her movement's subpar. Her serve is carrying her through these matches. Like someone like that, Bencic, like I know we said that she's great, but like she's a mom, like she's in her 30s. Svitolina, great fitness in her 30s. Like it's just not desirable for those players given the current state of what they've been offered. Um, so I just think that between all of those things, if they were to do it, we'd probably be looking at like a little bit longer timeline than that. But I'd love to be wrong, honestly, because I'd love to see it. But here to drop a take and explain why.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate everybody listening. I'm going to be in Orlando this weekend. For anybody that wants to smoke, I'm there. You know, I'm always down for a good time on the tennis court. I will be doing a live in-person podcast with one Connor Calhoun, the GOAT of the USTA National Campus. So be on the lookout for that. That's coming for a special episode soon to your computer screens. Nathan, I appreciate you putting up with me today.
Always, man. And I will be running away from Orlando, Florida, my home base, like wildfire this weekend upon news that Edic will be showing up. So it will just be him and Connor. Cristiano Ronaldo would also be running from Orlando as fast as he could as well if he heard that Edic was in the vicinity. But I will be listening to the episode with him and Connor. It will be great. Connor, very good friend of ours, coach at USTA as well. Still there currently. And I expect nothing but the best. So I won't be on here this weekend. Always happy to put out to you. It's fun
Oh,
talking.
good.
And we'll see everyone next episode.